Again, live in downtown Hartsville, 28 degrees and light freezing rain coming down. We're certainly not at the trees sagging point just yet, but starting to see a little bit of ice accumulating in the treetops. The icicles getting a little bit longer, and that's going to be the focus of the forecast for about the next 6 hours here, especially across that I-95 corridor. That's what we've been talking about for a couple of days now for that freezing rain and sleet potential. And let's jump in and show you that forecast here as we head through the rest of the night tonight. We've got those temperatures again between about 28 and 31 degrees here in the PD, and we just kind of sit there and not really budge much as we head through the rest of the night. But once we get past midnight, that's when we will start to see those temperatures creeping just above freezing, eliminating any kind of freezing rain issues. And in fact, by the time we get into daybreak tomorrow, we're done with any precipitation whatsoever and actually should be pretty smooth traveling as we work our way out the door tomorrow morning. Let's take you across the area, though. This is I-95 TV Road in Florence, moving just fine right now. 32 degrees and enough pre-treatment on I-95 and enough traffic that we're not seeing any issues. But around Florence County, including the city of Florence, you may be seeing a little bit of icing developing on your deck railing, on your front steps, on your car, on your mailbox, things like that. If you are, let us know. Make sure you let us know either on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. You can also submit those pictures and reports on our WMBF First Alert weather app. Conway sitting at 32 degrees as well. Now, when you're right at 32, it's hard to get a lot of freezing rain to accumulate. So it's going to be metal objects again and things that have air underneath them. That's why we keep saying things like your deck and your mailbox. Main roads, though, are going to be just fine. And then as far as the beaches go, it's cold, it's gross, it's miserable, but it's above freezing. So anything falling from here on out across the Highway 17 corridor up and down the Grand Strand is just a plain miserable cold rain and no more sleet expected across the beaches. There's a look at the radar, and at times it kind of eases up to just light drizzle or freezing drizzle. At times it gets a little bit heavier, and that's what we are stuck in as we head through the rest of the evening and overnight hours tonight, as future radar shows that picture pretty well. We'll take you through the 6 o'clock hour, and again, you can see those temperatures here inland close to or just below that freezing mark, but actually starting to nudge up a degree or two near the beaches. That continues through 9 o'clock. We'll be working our way into the upper 30s to near 40, but notice still 31 to 32 here across the I-95 corridor. We may see the intensity of some of that freezing rain picking up a bit more as we head through the late evening hours. But once we get to around midnight, as we've been saying, notice even here inland, those temperatures creep their way up to 32 to 33 degrees as that rain is coming to an end, bringing an end to any risk of ice. Look at the temperatures across the beaches, though. Our high temperature for the day probably occurs just before midnight, when we may very well be in the mid to upper 40s. But as the system pulls away, it kind of drags that cold air back in. So tomorrow morning, we're done with any precipitation with those temperatures into the low to mid 30s. Now, as far as any additional ice accumulation, I think we've seen a lot of this already there across Williamsburg County with about 0.2 of an inch. By the time all is said and done, probably between 1/10 and 2/10 of an inch here across much of northern Florence County, Darlington County, into Marlborough County. That's going to get some limbs that sag a bit, but I don't think we reached that 1/4 inch threshold, which is when we start breaking limbs and start getting those power outages. We're likely going to warm just above freezing just before that starts to happen. That's the latest here in Darlington. We'll continue much more with our team coverage coming up.